Hospitality. We had a bit of rain, made things a little bit muddy, but they did everything possible, put on a great show, and looking forward to that one. We booked the whole week off, so the wife's excited and going to go spend a bit of time drinking some moonshine and seeing the family before the races.
They don't have any of that in Sydney, do they?
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong place then.
Yeah. Just come over where I'm at. There'll always be some around.
Sounds like a plan. You got some great sponsors on this race.
Final lap this time for Laurie Cormier. He's had this race circled on his calendar since the River Glade International, trying to close off 2020 with a victory, and it's a big statement here on Grand Lake Road. Running through 3 and 4, Laurie Cormier, back to back in the Thanksgiving Thunder. Robbie's towing 100. Second gonna belong.
2/10's easy. Once I watched his line.
This is a big race for you and your crew from Sydney. What does it mean to win here?
Oh, it means everything. I mean, we come up here, we worked the last 2 weeks on the car, had to make some changes and stuff, and to come up here and get the crew and myself in victory lane, this is awesome, totally awesome.
Celebrations on tonight, right?
Oh, lots of moonshine tonight.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's Laurie Cormier.
Sydney Speedway, what a fun weekend that was. Dylan, I know you can attest to partying a couple of nights up in Sydney this year, right?
I think I lost a couple of years off my life in Sydney.
A couple of years off your life, come on now.
Good times. No, it was a lot of fun. We just saw the highlights of Laurie Cormier. I mean, that was the Thanksgiving Thunder special. I mean, we had a lot of fun then every race, and who knows, we could be getting back up there if restrictions kind of stick around here.
Yeah, we were kind of chatting about that off air. We apologize for being a couple of moments late, but we're here. We're live. Welcome into Tim's Corner, episode 11. Tim Terry, Dylan Langell, Denver Matchett. Denver, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Tim. I'm wishing that there was an Atlantic bubble today, but that ship has sailed for now, at least.
The good news is that we have 2 TCM shows this week. The bad news is we don't have an Atlantic bubble. So our plan was to transition this show to Wednesday. This is the final Monday night show that's currently scheduled. We'll talk about that a little bit later on because our guest lineup is confirmed. And we had a little bit of a shift in the guest lineup today, but we're going to, it's live. We're going to roll by the seat of our pants. This is exciting, and I'm glad to have this guy in here. We're going to get right to him. This guy, laundry list of accomplishments. He is the driver of the number 47 Late Model Sportsman at Eastbound Park at Thunder Valley Speedway. He's also the promoter, the manager at Thunder Valley. So he's wearing many hats, and it's great to have him along for the ride here this evening. We're going to welcome in Brad Melendy. Brad, welcome into Tim's Corner Live. Thank you for being a part of this show tonight, by the way.
Hey, no problem. Good to be here.
Pat,
filling in for the Eastbound Park. Pat was under the weather today, so he couldn't make it. So I'm here representing Thunder Valley Speedway and Eastbound Park.
Big shoes to fill, and I know you have a busy season upcoming. So I guess we'll start talking about what is to come, because not only are you the promoter, the manager at Thunder Valley Speedway, but you're also a race car driver. There's more race cars in the garage than what there was last year. Where do we start?
Yes. Well, that's it. Basically, we got a lot busier. Picked up another car. One of the daughters is moving up the class to legend cars. The youngest daughter's taking over the bando. We still got the sportsman car there. That's almost ready for to hit the track, getting there. And then we got a couple hobby stocks on the go as well. So there's lots of wheels moving.
So you got a legend, you got a bando, you got a couple of hobby stocks, you got a sportsman. The only thing you're missing is a pro stock, right?
Well, that's it. One of these days, maybe.
I'm sure we can find you one. We are live and interactive here this evening with Brad Melendy. If you have a question or a comment, drop it down below. I guess we talked about the race car thing for a second, so we'll kind of leave that for a moment. This racetrack thing, how did you become the manager, the promoter, jack of all trades at Thunder Valley Speedway in Central?
Well, basically, this is where it all started in Thunder Valley, of course. And then, of course, Eastbound came on stream. So then Thunder Valley was still there intact. It was already established. So Eastbound was a great spot. And Central needed something as well. So we kind of got it back reinitiated and fired it up. And I was the one at the helm, of course, to put it all together, along with a lot of other hands. And basically, it's been running for the last 5 years. So we still switch up dates back and forth with Eastbound, so both tracks work together. So it works out for everyone. So everyone can be working back and forth, hitting both dates. All the race dates usually adds up to about 12 to 14 a season. So that's how it works.
And for those that haven't been there before, they can check out the YouTube, they can check out the Facebook page, but that place is
Valley Speedway on Facebook, and of course the Thunder Valley Speedway.ca on the online.
And with that racetrack, obviously Eastbound, high banked, high speed. I was over there a couple of years ago, and it's almost like I think I likened it to like a Sydney, a Miramichi, and maybe a Scotia Speed World, all in a blender, and all of a sudden you've got a racetrack. It's really a driver's racetrack. For those that haven't been there before, explain the layout and what you would expect of a driver at Thunder Valley Speedway.
Basically, it's a great bull ring. It's not a real wide track, of course. There's not a lot of room to go 3 wide or anything like that. But it's a tight course. Pavement is rough. It's old pavement, but it puts off some great racing. From 4 5 classes, of course, hobby stock, bandos, legends, sportsmen's, and the bomber class. So it's a bit of excitement for everyone.
And for those that don't know, the bomber class kind of started out at Thunder Valley, at least on the on Newfoundland, and I think Eastbound, at least before the pandemic, we're looking at doing a bomber division. For those that might not know, it's you got a tire in the
last year was supposed to be. Last year was supposed to be the first year for bombers at Eastbound, which put off a great show because there's a bit more room out there and you get a bit more speed. But it's a great. It's called also called bomber or flagpole racing down on the USA side, we'll say. They do it quite commonly in small tracks down there. Turn around the back stretch, and then you got a full track to catch up. Then you turn around again, of course. Everyone swings around the tire, or the flagpole. Great racing. Lots of damage sometimes not. Makes some great excitement. Fans love it.
It's different.
The only thing is you can't run it. You can't run the race till the last race of the day because it's too much carnage on the track.
And that's what brings people out. And Denver can probably relate with the Miramichi deal, but I think I saw one of the YouTube videos. Was it like a cannonball start where they started on the front straightaway and had to run towards the back straightaway, and they had to put an article of clothing on or something?
Yeah, that was called the handbag race. Whatever's in the bag, you got to put on, run across the track, jump in the car, first man around wins. That's a shortened version.
And you can go on YouTube and check it out. It's a great little deal with that bomber division. But Denver, I know you can relate to it because in Miramichi, you guys have that demolition program at the end. So it kind of comes full circle there. You can kind of relate to it up there, can't you?
Absolutely. The flagpole race kind of sounds like our tire race, except we do it in the turns, which makes it a little chaos. They got to go around the tire, but it's yeah, lots of carnage. It's that's what the fans like. It's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, it keeps the carnage out of the bigger classes. Out of the mains is the big thing, like out of the sportsman and then your hobby stock and your other stuff. Keep that sort of legit. And then you got your super excitement for the bombers, which are low dollar, low budget cars.
I'm sure you see sometimes though that some of the higher classes, I know we see it in Miramichi, they can get a little rowdy sometimes too, even though it's supposed to be safe for the demolition.
Oh, yes. Yes. You can't. You hope it doesn't, but it always happens.
For sure.
Once again, we are live and interactive here with Brad Melendy. We're showing some highlights from Eastbound and some of the highlights from the number 47 car as well. Drop us a comment, drop us a question if you're watching us on Facebook, and maybe you want to learn more about Thunder Valley Speedway, or maybe you want to learn more about Brad's career, or maybe you got a question for him. If you're on the Eastbound Park page, drop it below, and we'll get there. Dylan, how is social tonight?
Social's a little quiet right now, so don't be shy. Brad's here. We're all here. Let's chit-chat. But, Brad, I got a question. I'm watching this handbag race right now on YouTube. Who the heck came up with this idea?
This was originally came from the old track that was in the same area as Thunder Valley Speedway. It used to be called Exploits Valley Speedway, and it was a dirt track. And that's for the first place the handbag race happened, and that was about 20 years ago or more. And that's where it got derived from. It's a good crowd pleaser.
I just messaged this race to Paul. I don't know, Tim, are we allowed to show YouTube footage on Facebook?
If we can get it up on the screen, we probably can. Paul is working on the back end. I know he's busy trying to push all these buttons to make it go, but it's, if you have an opportunity, because Brad, all your races are on there. If they have an opportunity, they can go on YouTube and take a look at all these races, right?
Oh, certainly. Definitely, yes. If not under Thunder Valley Speedway, it could be under Firefly is the actual address, I guess you'll call it. There's a load of files there, films to watch. Usually 10 per season or more, and they're all broken down into each division, so there's a lot there to see. I mean, make some great videos.
And we'll get Paul here in a bit to throw the schedule up on the screen so fans can take a look at what is upcoming at Thunder Valley. But it's a 5-day schedule this year. Obviously, you guys were the first in Newfoundland to open up with COVID, and you were one of the first actually in Atlantic Canada to open up. So how relieving is it to at least be ahead of the curve, at least know what's could potentially go on and have your races up already?
Well, we kind of we're basing this year on last year because we're fairly certain that it's going to be under the same circumstances. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse, of course, but we're hoping to do basically the same as last year with an extra 2 dates because we know how it's going to go now. So we can actually we're planned ahead, not like last year we had basically gotten way behind.
We're showing the bag race, by the way, right now on the screen. So are those dresses? Is that what that is? Hula skirts?
That's hula skirts, straight from Hawaii.
And they're running across the racetrack right now, and I think, is that Bern Quinlan at the back?
And not to mention there's a 78-year-old in the mix.
Yeah, that's Bern, right? He's in the orange suit coming across the racetrack.
Yes.
We talked to Rick Cashel here a couple of weeks ago on the show, and he is, I don't want to call resident old guy when it comes to the mainland stuff, but he's been around. He's won a feature in every decade in the last 6. How cool is it to have a guy like Bern Quinlan over there that's been racing for decades? He's probably got a couple of years on Rick Cashel. How cool is it to have him still racing a bomber car?
Say again, I missed that.
How cool is it to have Bern Quinlan still out there racing a bomber car and a hobby car?
Well, he not only runs a bomber car, he runs 2 classes. So he's 80. He's 80 now. That was 2 years ago. So he's 80, and he races hobby stocks and bombers. Says as long as he's still upright, he's going to be racing. So as long as he has his wits about him, it's good with me. So he shows up, 2 of them in tow, ready to go.
And with all the classes that we have over there, it's cool to have Burn, but it's also cool to see we'll transition to the late model sportsman division, because obviously the last year that you guys ran regular in 19, and with everything regular, I mean, Graham Tweedy's kind of stepped back a little bit. Josh Collins has made a couple of starts over there. Obviously yourself,
Yes.
Scotty Wright, Gerald Hicks,
Yes.
list goes on and on. The field might be short, but how cool is it to have those big names compete at your racetrack?
It's great. It's great to have, let's say, 7, 8, 10 cars. We can manage with that, and really appreciate the people that make the trek out to come and run at Thunder Valley Speedway. Be great to have more cars, but then again, the track is only really suited to running at no more than 12, because it would just be too tight. But yeah, we've had a lot of different names. It gets switched up through the years. We got older drivers now stepping back a bit, seasoned drivers, we'll say, and then we got some newer ones stepping in. More cars being brought back and forth between people, so we'll see how it goes.
I guess we'll transition to your racing career again. How did you get your start in racing? How did you end up behind the wheel of a race car?
All started with Derby cars here in Gander. So we ran the Derby for 8 years, and then all of a sudden I jumped into a dirt car. Bought a dirt car off Steve Abbott. At the time he had 2. I bought one of his. We ran at Exploits Valley Speedway, like I said before, in the dirt for 3 years, I believe. Then in mid-2000s, the paved track got started over in Thunder Valley. And then we transitioned to pavement. And then, of course, after that, Eastbound came online, which turned into a great spot, great facility. And now it's all the way it is.
For those that have been over and have seen Eastbound, they always have that first impression of what they saw when they rolled into the racetrack off of the top of 2. What was your first impression when you rolled into Eastbound?
Couldn't wait to get it off the trailer and hit some laps, of course. It was totally different. It was a track that actually had some real great values to it. So, like I say, when you're coming at it 1 going into 2, you can lay the hammer down and let it come out real easy. It's great. A bit more room and stuff like that, and a bit more speed, of course. Great
and for those that haven't heard, Eastbound is involved in the Advanced Mike Track Showdown Challenge. It's on your screen right now. You can head to advancedmiketrack.com and sign up.
Advancedmiketrack.com.
Yep.
You can vote 3 times daily, up until next Tuesday, of course, April 27th. Everyone's able to vote. Doesn't matter. So hopefully we can get some big hits on the votes there, because of course it gets Eastbound Speedway into a chance of being the top 6. And if you are one of the finals, of course, you get a chance at $50,000 in upgrades for your track.
Yeah, it's a great program, because if we get some money in for upgrades, improvements, whatever it is, it makes the whole racing community better in Newfoundland and Labrador, doesn't it?
You know, all adds up at the end of the day, of course, to make the facility even better, bring in some bigger crowds, of course. You never know what can happen.
I know social is a little quiet, Dylan. If you're on the Eastbound page, drop us a comment. Let us know you're watching. Hit that like button. Hit the share button. Let your friends know that you're watching some great bench racing. We do have Laurie Cormier coming up later on tonight as well. That is going to be an adventure for sure. But Dylan, I did see a couple of comments over on the Tim's Corner side. What do you got?
Well, one of them is wondering about your beard, but maybe we'll save that for another time.
That's Mark Best. That's Mark asking about
Yeah.
the beard. We'll tell that story a little bit later on, but I'm glad to see Marcus watching. Be awesome to see him take that Sportsman over to Thunder Valley as well and get some laps in there. Maybe trade some paint with Mr. Melendy, right? Right, Brad?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Brad Jordan Vino here in Nova Scotia is wondering. Sorry to interrupt there. He's wondering about the Sportsman cars. He's wondering how close are they to the rest of the Atlantic Canada. So are they maybe a bit different at Thunder Valley eastbound? Like, could someone from Nova Scotia go run there no problem?
Yes, not a problem. The main difference with some of the cars here in Newfoundland is that some of those are 3-link rear ends, whereas the rest of the cars are 4-link G-body metric cars. Well, there's probably, I'd say there's about 4 to 5 cars that are still the 3-link style rear end, of course. Most of the metric cars now are switched over to 9-inch, which 3-links already have. But other than that, the cars are basically the same powertrain, 602 crate motors in most of them. Other than that, they're about equal. And basically, you can tell by the lap times, there's metric cars that are faster than the 3-link cars.
And I think when you look at eastbound too, like you have the field has kind of dwindled the last couple of years. The economy, obviously with COVID, it didn't help things.
Yes.
But 2 years ago, back in 19, before everything started to happen, you have 15 to 20 cars each week, which is one of the most healthiest sportsman divisions in Atlantic Canada when it comes to car count wise. And everybody seems to be competitive. You've got guys like Ross Thorne mixing it up with Owen Groves, yourselves in there. Mitchell Fahy was quick.
Yes.
Josh Collins is there.
Yes.
I think everybody talks about quantity and quality. I think you guys have it both and have it figured out on Newfoundland, and especially at Eastbound Park with the quantity of cars that you have in the sportsman class, right?
Yes, that's correct. Basically, like I say, we're holding our own with quantity. Seems to be growing bit by bit. You might lose one, but you gain two, so that sort of thing. Quality of cars are good. There's not a lot of, we'll say, matched up cars that run. Basically, everything is in good order. So basically, we're running the same sort of show as what's happening in the Maritimes. We even run at Eastbound, they're running the 8-inch Hoosier, of course. TVS, you can run the 8-inch Hoosier, or we use the used 10-inch Hoosiers from the Pro Stock Tour, and which work out well for us because of cost-wise. But like I say, it is what it is.
And looking forward into this season too, because you've got all that competition that trickles over back and forth. I want to bring up one name because he said that he might come over to Eastbound a couple of times. We've seen him a lot on the iRacing side. Do you think we're going to see him up front? Can we throw a little bit of shade at him, because I'm sure he's watching? Do you think he's going to be
he's a great wheel man, that's for sure.
But is he going to beat the 47
this
this year?
Man, and the car he has, we're pretty neck to neck, me and him. So he's made a few trips to Eastbound before. We're not regulars by any means, but we make, like say, there's been times we've been there a few times a year for sure. I usually make 5 trips. He's usually there for 2. He's a great wheel man, and the car is fairly well prepared, so it's a possibility. And I know he has a fresh engine.
and he might have you beat just a little bit on the iRacing side of things, but I guess the real racetrack means what
definitely,
it is, right?
Definitely, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm not too good on the iRacing.
I'm sure Corey could probably teach you
everything.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate equalizer. These young fellas don't have the big equalizer, I guess, on the real track compared to the iRacing side of things. So it kind of evens everybody up.
Yes. And I like to shout out even to we'll call it retired racers from TVS, and actually operations guys like Bob Hutchins. He's also on your iRacing. He's a good wheelman too at times,
You know what? And we really didn't say a whole lot last week on our All-Star Showcase. You can go back and take a look at it. It's on the Bedane TV and on the TCM Facebook pages. But Bob, with about 5 laps to go, gave the field an inspirational speech because that race kind of came off the rails near the end of it. And Bob kind of gave us an inspirational speech to kind of get those guys calmed down from about the 10.5 they were pitching on the temper all the way down to about, I think, a 7 or an 8. It was still simmering, but at least Bob got them calmed down. So yeah, you've got some names in there that are on the real side, that are familiar names and familiar faces on the real side that are also coming over to the sim side. So it's kind of pretty neat the way it's transitioned. It took COVID to do it, but it's pretty neat the way it happened.
Yeah, hopefully we can bring Mr. Goss out too. He's another great wheel man who had a great car and sort of parked it for a few years, but hopefully we can drag him back out of the shed.
Hopefully it gives them the fire. Yep, and hopefully they're listening. Yeah. So if they're listening, I'm sure they'll drop a comment or something to keep Dylan busy on social. We are live and interactive. We've got Brad Melendy here from Thunder Valley Speedway from Central Newfoundland, and I want to ask you, since Paul has transitioned on the screen, I want to ask you about the girls. Grace has now moved up into a legend car. She started out in the Bandoleros we're seeing on the screen. Julie's moving into a Bandolero. So how excited is the family right now to go racing?
Pretty excited. Like say, Grace started out in the Bando. She even had a Sarah McKay paint scheme out there with the multicolored blowfish and all that. So that was her first year, and she's been gaining momentum, we'll say, ever since. She's had a few fender benders and stuff along the way, and a couple front clips and a rear clip and all this, but she's now jumped into a legend car. We picked up Ryan St. George's, which was he was a great wheelman as well. It was a great car. So she's moved into that now. And then we got my 9-year-old Julie, which is going to run the Bando car this year. So the excitement is on bust here. We just got to get some good weather so we can get some practice laps in.
We're seeing on the screen the little dance-off that they had at Eastbound, and how cool is it to see these kids grow up? We've seen it on the mainland where, you know, your Cole Butchers, your Dylan Blankhorns, your Brad Eddies, they all move up the ranks and they all become friends. How cool is it to see that program really gel in Newfoundland?
You can't beat it, because that's where it all starts, is with the young ones, right? Like say, you might not get all of them to stick with it, but you might gain some success there. And plus, just giving them the chance to try it is a big thing. There's nothing better than seeing the young guns out there. That's for sure. As long as they're having fun is the big thing.
Now, you mentioned the paint scheme. We're going to get Paul to pop it up here because I came prepared tonight. Surprise, Sarah McKay is on the show on Wednesday. We kind of did this backwards. But how did this rainbow, I think we called it Rainbow Guppy because it's not Rainbow Fish, is what Sarah McKay's car is. How did the Rainbow Guppy become the first paint scheme for Grace?
Well, we went to the IWK, of course, 250, and that's where it was first seen to, and it stuck from there. So, of course, she got her autograph and all that, and bingo, done. So it had to have the car the same paint scheme.
And I can tell you, I think her race car was a little bit brighter than Sarah's was. The pictures do not do it justice. That thing was absolutely bright. Yes. But I'll ask you about the Craig Slonway question. How hard was it to keep it maintained and keep it as pristine as it was?
Quite hard. Yeah, took a bit.
It's one of those paint schemes that's not a flat black or a flat color where you can just put a piece of duct tape on and go, right?
No, if you tear the corner off, you take a fender off, or damage the front hood or whatever, it's hard to match it in to make it perfect.
That's character, though,
Every
right?
piece has to fit just so.
Yes, absolutely. It's character at the end of the day.
But you couldn't beat the character of the paint scheme. It really stuck out. Everyone loved it.
And she's moved on too. She's had a couple of different paint schemes. I think last year was like the Napa sort of colors, wasn't
it? Last year was actually my Michael Jordan scheme for one of the races in NASCAR.
Yep.
At one point, it was a special scheme. The year before that was Mountain Dew. Mm-hmm. And the year before that was, of course, 2 years of the Blowfish.
So have you guys discussed paint schemes yet? Because I know your car hasn't changed in a couple of years. Have you guys discussed paint schemes? Obviously, she's moving up. So have you guys discussed paint here? Because we're getting ready to start here in a month.
Yeah, she's done. Hers is done. Got a lot of white, a bit of pink, and some gold, a bit of rose gold, but mainly pink with white stripes sort of deal. Julie is sticking with the paint scheme we had last year because it wasn't damaged too badly. We're going to change the numbers for her and add some other decals on top of that. She has her own sponsor package. And mine is totally stripped down at the moment, paint-wise, ready for reassembly. And mine will be mainly old school vintage look this year. So it's going to be a surprise, but a suspense. Well, 70s scheme, we'll call it.
Well, with the car that Mark Best put out a little bit earlier on with the kind of green and the black, there's a bar now, I guess, right?
Yes, and like I say, that's a big part of it is your paint scheme.
Identity, right?
Yes, identity and how you want to look and what you're trying to represent. So, and that's a big thing with your sponsors, of course. You got to make it look good. And you want people to see it at the track, and when you're towing it to the track, of course, and when you're parking in the parking lot at the gas station, you want to get it out there. Hey, that's a big part of it for everyone.
Absolutely. Visibility is absolutely key. We are live and interacting with Brad Melendy. Drop us a question, drop us a comment. Dylan, is there anybody biting out there? I know they're not afraid of Brad. They must be afraid of you or something, right?
Me, I think they're curious about your face. Is
that what everybody's talking about? That's great.
I got a question for you, Brad. So it's always curious to talk to the drivers from Newfoundland. Do you have much experience racing outside the Rock, or if not, where would you like to maybe race in the Maritimes, any of the tracks around here, if money was not a problem?
Well, actually, last year we had planned with our limited race schedule. We had the boats booked and everything to go to Sydney because of the fact it's only just after the boat crossing, of course. And like I say, the track seems to be decently put together, and we're going to try it out. So we had everything booked. We're ready to go until the COVID crunched down. So that got shot out the window pretty quick. Other than that, I'd love to try Riverside sometime, but like I say, I don't really have the car to compete there. Or I shouldn't say that. I don't have the setup person to compete there, we'll say. Yeah, other than that, that would be a great hit if I could do Riverside and Sydney. We made trips to all the tracks. We watched races at Riverside, and we watched some in Oyster Bed. Other than that, that's as far as we've gone.
From a fan experience, Brad, sorry to interrupt again. What would you say is your favorite to watch as a fan in the stands? Which track is your favorite?
We've always enjoyed Riverside. It's great racing there. It seems to be, like say. Oyster Bed is a great facility. Also, the action there when we were there was street stocks. I believe it was late models and legend cars, and they put off a great show, I should say.
Always put off a smooth show to Oyster Bed Speedway, and we actually have a guest coming up on Wednesday that might know a thing or two about that. Not to let the cat completely out of the bag on that, but you're gonna have to stick around for a bit. Denver, I know you're. I can see the wheels turning over there. Denver, what are you thinking? What do you got for Brad?
So I got a question to throw at you, Brad. So it's actually related to something we just did here in Miramichi a few weeks ago. We had our first crack at racing in the snow. Now it's no secret Newfoundland has.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you guys have some long, cold winters. Is that something you guys have ever done before? Is race on the snow or ice? Or is that something you guys would consider going forward?
It's been thought about for sure. The only problem is logistically and snow-wise. If you get a terribly heavy snowfall winter, it's hard to keep everything opened up to put off a race. But like I say, it could be done. It's quite possible. I watched your videos that I've seen around of that, and it looked like a great event. Looked like it was well enjoyed.
Yeah, it was certainly pretty wild.
How are your... Yeah. What was your total car count?
We had 31 cars for that one. And that was on 3 weeks of planning.
Wicked.
Yeah, so 31 cars put on quite a show. And I know down in Sydney, they had, what was it, Tim? 50, 60, 70?
78. There was a lot of cars. There was a lot of cars up there, but for those that might not know too, the one time I was over to Thunder Valley, it's kind of off the main road just a little bit. Tom Scully and I drove by one time when we were coming back from eastbound, and Tom had said, here's where the racetrack is. We're not going to go in, but I came over with Josh Collins one year, and you kind of go in, and I looked at Gail or whoever was driving. I said, "Are we lost?" Like, it's kind of back a little ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost 2 kilometers off the highway, so it's a bit of a trek. So in the wintertime, there's about 4 feet of snow on that road most of the times, because it's a highly driven trail to the woods, we'll call it, on like snow machine and stuff. But eastbound, on the other hand, would be a lot easier because it's right off the highway. So ice racing could happen there, or snow racing, whatever we call it. It's a great possibility.
And you know what, though? The drive's not bad, though. Like, I likened it to, like, we flew into St. John's, and we came from St. John's over to Central. It's no different than coming from Halifax to Fredericton in the fact where it's a 3.5-ish, 4-hour drive, depending how fast you drive the road. Grand Falls is up the road.
That's right.
You got Gander right down the road. You're kind of locked in the middle. So it's not really, the drive's not bad. So if you're looking for something to do, and especially the great thing with this Atlantic bubble, once it opens, is, if you wanted to go to Ontario, you wanted to go to the States, you can't. Newfoundland is an option. So for those that are over there, I think that's probably one of the best options to get out and do some touristy things if you want to, and you can't go to your favorite destination outside the bubble, right?
It's a staycation. So Maritimes and Newfoundland, when we get her opened up. And so, like I say, it's only 5 hours from Port aux Basques, we'll say, to Thunder Valley. And it's about 9 hours to Avondale or eastbound Speedway from Port aux Basques. So, yeah, it's not bad. It's doable. And there's a lot of great scenery to see along the way, for sure. And it's great racing.
Absolutely. Definitely a fun trip. Make the trip out of it. If you've never been to Newfoundland, it's definitely an experience to go over. I've been over a couple of times with the opportunity with the boys from Eastbound, and a couple of times with Josh Collins. Got to visit Placentia down there too. It's a great place if you've never been.
Yes, so great place too, down to Placentia.
It's an opportunity to go over it and try to do some different things that you might not have had to before. So book the Eastbound schedule is on their website. I know Mike's got it on his social. We've seen the Thunder Valley schedule on here. You can check it out on the social as well. So it's time now, I guess, to start booking, pending an Atlantic bubble, right?
That's correct. You never know what can happen. But we're going for gold here to get going for sure. And like I say, we're going to put off our 5 races, and Eastbound has 10, I believe, and hoping to go and do what we can do with whatever limits are put forth. So there's going to be racing action in Newfoundland.
So with your 4 or 5 race cars that you have, what are your goals? Put the driver cap on, put the team owner cap on. What are your goals for the season? Do you set any at the start? Are you looking for some hardware? What's your outlook?
Yeah, we got to get some hardware, but I know there's going to be some hiccups along the way, we'll call it. But we got 2 drivers basically get up to speed in the new cars, of course, with the Legend car, and then a new driver in the Bando. The old 47 Sportsman, she'll be in the mix there and see what happens. We got a great hobby stock there. That's an upfront car. Just got to say, got to get it all to the track and be ready to go.
You've been around this field
it's going to happen.
you've been around this deal for a little while now, and you've seen these, and I mean, Sarah Thorne, Owen Groves, they're starting to race sportsman cars against you now. You've got a couple of drivers coming up through the ranks.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of drivers that are starting to move in from Bandoleros to legend cars and thinking about that sportsman jump. What advice can you give to these young kids that are just starting out in the sport?
Basically, I don't know. My advice is do what you can do, keep it as clean as you can, and try to get it up front in one piece, and don't wear out your hardware on the first lap is the big thing, of course. Represent your brand and all that, and do the right thing and promote racing, keep it alive, because that's a big part of it. Is getting it out there, spreading it around, and there's no I in team, of course. So you got to, like I say, break it up and get it out there all together.
And you guys have done really well with that in Central, and also on the Avalon side on St. John's, of being visible and getting those cars out and displaying those cars. You guys have done a phenomenal job on that and making that happen. Final call for social. Dylan, is there anything on there we can throw at Brad Melendy?
Yeah, let's see what we can throw here. Well, Austin Hiscock wrote that they're looking forward to running Legends at TVS in 2021. Brad, I was just watching a little YouTube after the handbag race. The Legends division, is it decently big there, or is that more of a growing class at the moment?
It's usually this last 2 years is the first years for it. So we usually have between 6 and 7 cars. Not a big pile, but it's enough to put off a race.
How about a driver, Austin Hiscock there? Any comments about that driver?
Yeah, he was great in the Bando division. He ran Thunder Valley the last 2-3 years in the Bando, and he was basically always in the podium, more or less. He's not afraid to put it up front, and he races hard. So usually he might have to take care of his hardware a little more at the Legend car. We'll see what happens.
Mark Best is wondering, Brad, how many sportsman cars are registered for the season at TVS?
We have 8 so far, and we're waiting for his.
As the promoter,
we gotta have the beast there at least once.
Yeah, for sure. Got a question for you though. Do you race as the promoter, I guess, manager promoter? Do you race at Thunder Valley? And if you do, how do you make that transition going from a small bull ring to a bigger track like Eastbound? Is there a big adjustment or a big learning curve just going from track to track?
There's a few adjustments there, of course. The car, like my setup, is pretty low key. Of course, I don't have a setup man or anything like that. It's all done from myself and one other person, basically. So tires and gear ratio is the biggest changes that we make. Other than that, it is what it is.
And that's pretty much it right now for socials, Tim.
Okay. We got Laurie Cormier coming up in a bit, so I know you're going to be busy in just a little bit with Laurie Cormier. Denver, what do you got for Brad? Any final thoughts?
Well, Brad, I certainly would like to get over to Newfoundland someday and check out both tracks, Eastbound and Thunder Valley. But, what is it about Newfoundland? You guys have really taken and grown the sport in the last few years with Eastbound and Thunder Valley. So to wrap everything up, summarize the whole racing community over there. I know you maybe can't compare it quite to the Maritimes, but if we're coming over to Newfoundland, what can we expect? If someone's going to bring their car over, what can they expect?
It's hard to say. It's a hard one to summarize, but I guess we're going to say you're going to be in for a ride. You're going to see some great things. It's going to be some great racing. You're going to be treated well, and basically, main thing is that you're going to enjoy your stay as long as you're here, for sure. And hopefully you'll bring your car home the way you brought it. With some hardware, maybe.
I know Denver has been a part of some of those Miramachi parties. I know Dylan has been a part of them too, and he's seen some of the Sydney stuff. but nobody knows hospitality like Newfoundlanders, right?
That's right. We all try to treat you like family, that sort of thing. So, like I say, we try our best to do the right thing, and hope everyone enjoys their travels and vacation, we'll call it. Like I say, we try to put off some good racing. We got a great facility there at Eastbound Speedway, and there's the TVS Thunder Valley is also a decent spot, although doesn't have all the bells and whistles that other places have. But we try to run it right and puts off a good show for sure. Everyone usually goes away pleased.
It's definitely on my bucket list to get back over, because I know the one time we got over there, it rained out. So it's definitely on my bucket list, and hopefully I can get back over there, and hopefully Denver and Dylan and the boys can come over, and we can have a party. Brad, this has been great. Thank you for joining us.
Love to have you, and hopefully, like I say, one day it can make it happen, and if not, we'll be over your way for sure, because it works both ways, of course, and we've always been over to the Maritimes checking it out and sort of thing, so it's all good. Don't forget the advancemytrack.com, of course. Anyone that can get a vote in helps us all out. It's all good.
And once again, it's on your screen. Head over to advancemytrack.com and vote for Eastbound 3 times. Brad, this has been great. I appreciate it. Thank you for hopping on, and we'll be in touch before the season starts for sure.
Yes, that's great, and thanks for everything that you do, Tim. Gets the word out there, gets it everywhere. Thanks a bunch.
That is Brad Melendy of Thunder Valley Speedway, and a couple of different hats that he has on every time. But you on your screen right now is a little bit of a preview of what we're going to see on Wednesday. We've got 2 guests coming up. Obviously, that was Chris Hughes, and this is Sarah McKay on your screen. So 232's Denver coming up on Wednesday. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Tim. It's a double whammy this week, 2 shows, and Wednesday, like you said, it's the 32s, and 2 pro stock drivers, 2 great pro stock drivers, and some great stories to be shared. Chris has been around the sport for a long time, and Sarah is one of the up-and-coming drivers and one of the more popular drivers, so really looking forward to this one. It's going to be a great mix. It's going to be a lot of fun. First Wednesday night show. What more can you ask for?
It's going to be fun. And speaking about technology, it's great to catch up with this guy we're getting ready to catch up with. Driver the number 53. It's Laurie Cormier, and Laurie's got to unmute his microphone. There we go, because technology, Laurie, you got to love it, eh? Well,
how you doing, Tim?
So far, so good. Welcome in. Glad to have you on, and excited to get this COVID stuff out of the way and go racing. You've had a couple of successful seasons, albeit they've been partial seasons. I guess we'll start with that little banner that's above your head there, that 2020 Sydney Speedway feature win. How cool was that to take that away the last couple of years?
That was awesome to end the season that way, to walk away and have the winner to bragging rights to win it. The wives from there, the crews from there, my pit crews, so they get to spend time with their family, get to see relatives. Great time the last 2 years. 3 years in a row we won it.
It's great to get up there. It's a long trip over, but it's always great to get up there, enjoy some good time, some hospitality, and some great racing. We saw at the top of the show. I guess what happens in Sydney stays in Sydney, but Dylan Langell can approve to it too, because I think he was there too. It's a heck of a party at the end of it, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when the moonshine gets mixed in, eh?
Yeah, it was a late one too. Rough morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good thing we rained out, right?
Yeah. No, it was a great time up there. Enjoyed going up, and a different track and new people, and that's part of the fun with the racing. And then the afterwards, the moonshine and all that, it was even better.
We are live and interactive with Laurie Cormier, and we're on the Eastbound page as well too. So I guess that kind of brings in the hospitality at the very start. Don't be afraid. Drop us a comment. Drop us a question. We're interactive here. We're going to have some fun sharing some stories here with Laurie Cormier. Let's go back. Let's go way back. How did you get your start in racing?
Oh, I watched my father race all my life. Spent my weekends at the racetracks, and back in my dad's day, they'd race 3, 4, 5 times a week. and all over the Maritimes. So we only got to go away on the weekends and watch, and it was usually Douglastown, which is Miramichi, Riverglade, of course, Hammond Speedway. We'd go up to Riverside every year in the late 70s, and the pond everybody goes across that has the bridge. We were kids. We'd go fishing mellows there, and that was back in 79, 78, 77. Anyhow, got into watching my dad, and I wanted to race, so I raced motocross and BMXs, then got into go-karts and bugged my dad for 8 years to build a car, and he kept saying, nope, you'll spend too much money like I did, and you'll dedicate all your time. So finally, I was racing the go-karts. He come out to Petty, and my mother come out to watch the race. It was 94. It was a pro stock race, and we were putting on a demonstration. And my mom come to the race and seen a little go-kart inch off the ground doing 100 miles an hour, a tenth off of the NASCAR times. And that's how I got my stock car. After the go-kart display, Mom had said to my dad, you're going to build the car with the roll cage and seatbelt, and you're selling the go-kart. So that's how I went from there. And 95, I started racing Bobby Frazier's car. Ran 5 races. He was working weekends, couldn't race it. So 96, we started building the car. First race I went to was in 1996, Shediac Speed Weekend. 44 cars showed up, only 30 qualified. I didn't make it. In fact, with so many cars, there was an A and a B qualifier. We didn't qualify Saturday. We got the car ready for Sunday and ran the B, got second, made it into the A and got second. Only the winner got put up. So I started really racing full time in 97 and raced for 10 years, walked away from it for 5 years, and been racing again for 5 years. My dad won the International in 1967 and 73. I won it in my first one in 2013, 40 years later from my dad won his second one, and called him at midnight, Victory Lane, woke him up, telling him I won the race. So I've won 2 more since. We got 3. It's the only thing I'll ever beat my dad in. He had 2 internationals. I got 3. And last 2 years, we've won the Micah Stevens a couple times. I've got 3 of those now. And we've had some good running, but we're not running full time. We haven't been. And we're just discussing this now. We're at my shop. The car's here and my pit crew's here. And we're bench racing and saying, well, we got 4 weeks to get it ready. And the first race is in 4 weeks, 5 days.
So I guess it's coming soon. And with the preparations that are going on, we keep saying like we could start in June, July, August. This May stuff is just only a date. It seems like when we start, there's drivers that aren't going to be ready. So I guess if you have that countdown, I guess it helps, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. Gives us a deadline to prepare. Hopefully we do get to go racing. Might be June or July, but we want to be ready. And going to try to race as much as we can. Don't have any bad problems, we'll race full time. If we have problems, well, it is what it is. With working and trying to race a car, it takes a lot of time.
Absolutely, it does. We are live and interactive. Drop us a question, drop us a comment for Laurie Cormier. You can drop it here on the Tim's Corner Facebook page. We're also live on the Eastbound page, so if you have any questions from Newfoundland, be sure to drop them as well. Dylan, any early returns from social?
Oh, plenty now, Laurie, and good to hear from you. The laugh, I can, as soon as I hear the laugh, I know it's you. It's very distinguishable. But a lot of your fans are coming out of the woodwork. Jordan Viano has been with us the entire time, and he's looking forward to racing with you. I mean, that's one of the best sportsman drivers in Nova Scotia. And I mean, I'm sure you've tangled on the track with him at the internationals at Petty, right? Oh, yes.
We always have a good time. We race each other hard. Try to stay clean, but we always bump and rub a little bit. That's racing.
Oh, absolutely. Brent Patterson's wondering when you're going to be going to Speedway 660 in Geary, but that could lead into your racing part-time, or what's kind of the outlook for the schedule if everything goes well with the COVID restrictions and bubble and whatnot?
We're trying to get ready for the first race in May, 3rd weekend in May, and I want to run the 4-race series for sure. We'll try to run as much as we can. Last 3 years, I just didn't want to dedicate. 2018 was the last time I ran a full season. And the last couple of years, we've just been running big races, going around and having a blast. No stress every weekend, working on the car nights till 2, 3 in the morning kind of thing. So we're going to play by ear, but we'll try racing full time. If we're up front in the points, we'll stay running. If we have any bad luck, well, then we'll just pick off the big races. 660, I think the first big race up there, I think, is in July of that 4-race series, I think.
So how's the car looking right now? I mean, after October in Sydney, do you strip it down and start from scratch pretty much?
I haven't touched it. It looks the same from Sydney. I still got the moonshine spilt on the hood. No, that's what we're just saying. We got 4 weeks to get it ready. And we're talking about the paint scheme, and gotta probably pull the rear end apart, go over that, and we got a fresh tranny for it, and just bushings and ball joints, and we're just talking about that stuff now. So the next 4 weeks, if we're got it ready, then that leaves us 5 days to make it to the track if we get the race.
You mentioned Speedway 660. That's one racetrack in the last couple of seasons that you've got a couple of podiums at, but trying to get that victory, what's it going to take to get that big victory, whether it's on speed weekend or during a firecracker or what have you?
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. We've had some close calls, almost won the firecracker one year. We went from the back to the front, but it burned up the tires. Had a bunch of restarts and ended up getting third, I think. But yeah, we've had a few podiums. It'd be one I'd love to win, at least, like you said, a firecracker race or something. That's kind of our goal. Want to concentrate on 660 quite a bit, and we were just discussing that. That's one of the tracks I haven't won it, and I want to get a win.
Is there anything else? Because you've had your storied career. You've won pretty much everything there is. Is there anything that you want to win, that you want to check off that bucket list?
Talking about the IWK, I've only ran it 3 times, I think, and I've got wrecked 2 out of 3. So we'd like to maybe go run that. We run at Sydney, and we've run Nova Scotia rules. There isn't really anything we have to change. That would be one, and 660 Speed Weekend. Those are the 2 ones that I'd like to grab before the end of my career.
Now, we have Jordan Vino watching, obviously, and we heard he's going to pro stock sort of thing, and he's been the main rival in sportsman for you the last couple of years. You know, Luke Bourgeois a couple of years before that, Kenny McKenzie. There's been some really great competition up at Petty International Raceway. But if Jordan kind of goes towards that pro stock side of things, who do you see as your next kind of target to try to beat every week?
There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of good drivers. Some weekends you're right on the money, and some weekends, just no matter what you do, you can't quite get it. We have the same thing. We work on it all through the practice and heats, and a lot of the times we luck out and throw the sink at it for the feature and end up with a good run. But competition out there, there's a lot of good cars. Just everybody out there, really. Jordan not being out there, though, that opens the door more for me. So,
Denver, what do you got? Because I know your wheels are turning in your head there.
I have a lot, Tim. Laurie, I want to back up a little bit. You know, you said you watched your father race. Obviously, one of the greats in the sport of racing way back in the day. First of all, did he ever race at McEwen Speedway in Moncton? And do you have any memories of checking out that track?
Yes, my father did race at McEwen Speedway, and I did too. 1979, 1980, and 81. I raced there. My dad raced there in the 60s and early 70s. I think they closed down in 74, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. But when I raced there, it was motocross and flat track. So the infield was a motocross track, and the outside wasn't much banking at McEwen's. They used to throw sand on it and drag the sand around. And before a race, and we'd go out and down the straightaway, you'd be sitting on the back of your seat and go in the corner, pull your butt up to the gas tank and pitch her sideways. And so I raced there for 3 years. Yeah, and I do have just a couple little memories. I was so young. That was the last year Dad ran a Corvair. Was last year, I think so. It might have been 73 that they ran there. And I'd only be 6 years old. I see the pictures that we got the photo albums of it. So I always said maybe that'd be part of my memories. But yeah, McEwen's was a good time for myself as a youth growing up and racing there myself. That was always something that was neat. My dad raced here. Now I am a young fella on a motorbike.
I have something else I want to ask you. I know you mentioned earlier you got to watch him race some up in Douglastown, or what's now Speedway Miramichi. I have a newspaper article in front of me from July 1974. Your father was in a big wreck. Were you there that day, or do you have any stories to share from that one?
I wasn't there that day. My dad's car caught on fire, and it was so hot that when he unbuckled, he had to dive out of the window. And the next morning I woke up. A lot of the times when he was out of town, he'd end up coming home and driving the boys, and I'd wake up in the morning and the car would be there, and half of the time it'd be at the shop. And it just happened that morning. I woke up and ran up and seen the car. It was all burnt, and the window back then, they used the rear windows. It was all shattered and cracked. And anyway, I went crawling through the car, and the thing I remember the most is my mother was so mad at me for getting all full of soot and dirty. But yeah, I do remember that. That was quite an ordeal. I've got pictures of that showing the car coming around the corner rolling on fire, and my dad's still in the car.
Wow. That certainly would have been, things back then. We didn't have all the safety gear that we have now, so that certainly would have been spectacular. But now I want to ask you a bit about some of your accomplishments. You said 3 international wins. Is there any one of those international wins that stand out more than the others?
First one, I called my dad in Victory Lane after winning the race. That was the most special one. That's
certainly, especially where, he had won that race and then you were finally able to get that first one. That would have been big for sure.
Yeah, that was probably one of my greatest moments in racing, I think, was calling him up. He couldn't make it. He wasn't doing well at the time. And, I didn't realize what time it was. I was so excited and pumped up, called him up. My mother answered first, told her, and then I could hear Dad in the back, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Yeah, it was a good moment. One of the best. Yeah.
And for you, the big races at Petty, not just the international, but the Mike Stevens Memorial, you've won 3 of those. Any one of those stand out more than the others?
The first one, 2015, I just came back from racing after losing my mom and dad. And that one meant a lot to me. And that one sticks in my mind the most.
We had some of the highlights on the screen from Sydney, some of the onboard stuff, Laurie. I want to ask you, that racetrack's bumpy. How do you make that car so smooth around that racetrack? Obviously, it comes out in Victory Lane every time, but how do you make it so smooth that it gets around there so quickly?
Avoid the bumps. No. We this year we went out Friday night, and it had rained a bit and wet. We tried the car, and it was fast, and it was great. We went back the next morning, and it was terrible. And it was, oh no. And I was trying different lanes and just trying a bunch of things. And we kept trying. And again, at the feature, we threw a bunch of things at it and said, well, let's hope for the best. And it turned out good again.
And the rest is history. A couple of trophies in the trophy case. I know social is starting to light up a little bit. Dylan, who do we have over there? What can we throw at Laurie Cormier tonight?
Well, I got a few things first, because I was watching that footage of you, Laurie, racing at Sydney Speedway. Gloves. Do you not race with gloves?
I hate wearing gloves. I've never, as long as I can get away with it, I don't wear them. 660, they always check, so I have to. I won't wear them until I'm told. I've always raced bare hand. Nowadays they want you to wear gloves. I have gloves. I keep them in the car, but I just don't like gloves on my hand when I'm racing. I never did.
Does it kind of when you have to wear them, does it throw you off? Just maybe a little thicker, or messes you up completely?
No, my hands sweat. I play drums, and even when I play drums, my hands sweat. On the wheel, if I got gloves on, halfway through the race, my hands are soaked. So I don't like wearing gloves.
Another question from the screenshot of your car. Is that a Tim Hortons peach tea I see in there? Peach drink?
Yeah, I love me peach juice. Some more peace juice.
Is that the secret to your success?
Yeah. It's also good with moonshine.
Oh yeah, I bet. Hey, but you brought up something. You brought up something else, Laurie. I was going to wonder who's the drummer in the family. I see the big drum set behind you.
Yeah, I got back into it about 3 years ago. I noticed after a couple races, the old arms were sore and the legs were cramped up, and said I better get at it again with the drums. It's good exercise in the winter. I like fast music, speed music, Tool, Slipknot, Metallica, Rush. Grew up watching Rush all my life, videos, concerts. So I figure that there keeps the reflex up, especially speed drumming, keeps the leg muscles up for the break-in for the long races. I'm older than all these young fellas. They get out of the car, they're not sweating, and I'm soaked.
Laurie, you've been racing for and the actual race cars, it sounds like for 25 years. And this question always comes up with any driver, bad wrecks. Any in particular that come to mind, or maybe with your fast reflexes drumming, did you avoid some really bad wrecks?
I avoid a lot of bad wrecks, but I've been in a couple real bad ones. My first real bad one was Agony-ish, 2001, Snap-on Tour, first race of the year. Again, I showed up late, worked on the car, left Moncton at 5 o'clock, made it to the track at 7. They were starting the first heat. I got out in the fourth heat and caught Phil Barkhouse and Gordon Ryan. And Phil nudged Gordon going in and got a little wiggly. And Phil didn't realize I was coming in hard on the outside of him. I went to turn and go around Gordon Ryan. And it was going in turn 3. Anyhow, I caught his right rear wheel with my left front, and it launched me. And I thought, all I could see was sky. And I said, oh, shit. I thought I was going over the wall. And I clipped the top of the wall and then come down, and then another car hit the back of me. And that was a bad one. Frankie, it took 2 tow trucks to get it on the trailer. Back then we had open trailers. And Frankie said, well, that car is done. And I said, no, it ain't. I said, I'll have that back in the track in 2 weeks. He says, Laurie, I think you rang your bell. 2 weeks later, we had back together, went to Shediac, ran a race and won it. That was a bad one. I busted up some ribs and stuff. The worst one I had was Shediac 2003. My throttle hung up and an outlaw sportsman race. And I had one of my dad's pro stock motors in there. We changed it, ran Saturday, won the championship, points championship, and put that motor in after the race, worked on it till 2 a.m. My dad was there, and he was heading home. Said, boys, before you call it a night, check the linkage on that carburetor when the air breather's on, because we'd run it, set the timing and stuff on it. Anyway, we were tired. We forgot all about it. Put the thing together, went racing the next morning. The car, we were in the Hoosier Slicks, and it made pretty good horsepower where I couldn't flat-foot it even down the straightaway. She'd get squirrely on me, and ran some practice, ran some heats. Finally, in the feature, 15 laps into it, tires got good and hot and sticky, and I said, look at this. I think I can floor it. Came out of 1. When I floored it, it burped, bat, and I thought, what the heck? Going down, come into 2, and I go to lift, and the throttle went beyond wide open and locked. Anyway, I launched off turn 1 bank and only hit the ground in front of the wall, hit the wall head on, put my left foot, snapped the brake pedal off, and put my foot right through the firewall into the ground, crushed all my toes, broke some ribs, shoulder blade, sprained wrist, sprained ankle. The other ankle was the throttle ankle too. Destroyed the car. That time it did not make it back to the track. That was the last of it. That was probably my worst wreck. My mom and dad were there right front in the pits where I hit the wall right in front of them. My dad climbed the fence. He was the first one there. He was white as a ghost. And I went to get out of the car, adrenaline. You know, I said, I'm okay. Just knock the wind out of me. And as I pulled my foot around, I hit it and went in instant pain. And then I dropped. I fell on the ground. And my dad's looking over me. You're not all right. But yeah, that had to be the worst one out of them all. That one was pretty bad.
Anything else you see on social, Dylan?
Well, just a few people even commenting, Laurie, on that wreck. Mark wrote, I was standing right next to his mom and dad in Shediac, and he hit the wall dead on when we were all standing not good, and that car never saw another lap. So, yeah, I mean, it just some of the fans will even remember that too. We already talked about this a little earlier, but Richard Atkinson's wondering when you're coming to 660, you said you're kind of aiming for that Sportsman series that's going to be coming up.
Yep. I think the first one's in July. I'm not quite sure. That's something that we were going to look up. And before, we'd like to go up 2 or 3 times and use a test and tunes and firecrack kind of thing for Speed Weekend. The last couple of years, we just hadn't made it up except for Speed Weekend. I'd like to make it up 2 or 3 times at least this year. Enjoy running up there. Richard's a good runner, like running side by side. Another guy that you can run hard. You know, if you rub a little bit, it's not intentional. We're just racing hard and old school racing.
I guess this is kind of a question for Tim as well, and maybe yourself, Laurie. Tim, Oyster Bed, is there a Sportsman division over there?
There is not. I think there was a couple of races where they had the Sportsman as an invite class, but I don't think there has been one. Laurie, have you ever run at Oyster Bed?
No, I never have run at Oyster Bed. They used to run, they called the Modifies. They're halfway between a Pro Stock and a Sportsman. They're running the Sportsman motors. Then they got more into buying up the older Pro Stocks. And now they are a Pro Stock kind of thing. They were running Perimeter chassis back in the early 2000s. And they'd come over and run with us. Back then, we were running crate motors. Actually, we were running built motors. And they were making more horsepower than us. Yeah, I've never got to run over there. That's one track I'd like to run and never will have the opportunity.
Well, if someone offered you a different kind of car, would you take the stab at driving an Oyster Bed? So if someone said, hey, I got a street stock here, or I've got a mini stock, would you get another car and try that out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Give myself more trouble. No, it's a track that I've gone and watched racing there. I've watched the NASCAR tour there. I've gone just to a regular race there when they had their Modifies. Looks like a sharp track. I'd like to try it. It's one of the tracks I haven't got to. Valley, watching the clip, that looks like a neat track. Yeah, I've heard stories about one straightaway's up, one's down. Pretty fast track. Looks pretty sharp in video. Something I'd like to try too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of tracks that you may have to venture over here if the Atlantic Bubble opens up soon. I mean, yeah, we had Lake Dowsett down in Yarmouth with the Sportsman division, which is growing there too. And I think that's the track you're talking about where it's up and down. And Tim can tell you too. I mean, that track, holy moly, it's something else. I want to get there this summer. But Tim, tell Laurie what Lake Dowsett's like.
It's almost the opposite. We just came from the eastbound conversation where the back straightaway at eastbound's elevated 18 feet. This is 1 and 2 is up on a hill, and literally you're looking down into 3 and 4 into a hairpin corner, and it's kind of a neat place. And they do run the late model sportsman division. They got a very competitive sportsman division there. They did run a 100-lap race here the last couple of seasons, so that might be one to keep your eye on if they do that again. I know they've gone through some new management this year, but you mentioned Oyster Bed, maybe on the bucket list. Lake Dowsett on the bucket list. Is there anything else that you might want to try, or maybe try again? You mentioned coming back to Riverside. Is there anything that's kind of on that list of, hey, I want to get this one back in?
Riverside for sure. I'd like to run. Another track I've only run twice on with the Snap-on tour was Scotia. I've only run there twice. I'd like to go run again. It's different. Looks very challenging. It's a momentum groove kind of track. IWK though, I really like we've talked about it for years. Last time I was there was 2014, and big pile up, got stopped, and somebody drove in the back of me and snapped the shocks off the back of the rear end. That was the end of it. So I went back to the pits and drank moonshine.
I know Lawrence doesn't like me asking the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know the rules in New Brunswick are similar, that you can go to 660 or the Center for Speed or Petty and kind of run the same package. Scotia has aligned with the Napa Sportsman Series in Riverside this year to kind of make their rules kind of closer. Is there any big rule change between the two provinces that's kind of hindering that process of coming across the Tantramar Marsh and coming down?
No, not at all. We changed a few things on the car that we had to change to go run Sydney, and now it's there to switch back and forth. Part of it was the rear end setup and the carburetor. I've got a couple 2 barrels, so that'd be one thing I'd have to change. And I'm not sure what they do with the spring rule. They had an 800 rule. They talked possibly of changing it. I run a 6 and a 700. So if I do go, I've actually got the springs for it. If I do go to run, so that'd be about the only thing I'd have to change. No, nothing stopped me from going. Just never really hauled too far away. Sydney, I don't know what come about us, but it was let's go to Sydney, and it's almost 6 hours away hauling. We had a blast. It was well worth going up again this year, and plan on doing it again. We enjoyed it.
Well, when Craig Ward gets out of the race car the first time he's there, he told me this thing reminds me of Riverview Speedway. Does that help at all? That 6 hour haul to get up there? Does that help at all, knowing what you're going to?
Yeah. Like last year when we went up, or 2019 when we went up the first time, Donnie, my crew chief, raced there and talked about the track, and he'd never seen racing at River Glade. So he wasn't sure if it was quite the same, but I'd heard from other people it's similar, and Chris Reed and them. So going up there the first time, it was okay, and when we first ran laps, I was being very cautious. We had water seeping out in front straightaway for a little bit when we had practices. So I was being super cautious, and by the time it was race time, it was okay. This is River Glade. Just got to get a little used to it. And there's a couple dips in it, one coming out of 2. And one in the middle of 3 and 4, and just learn to take them. And but a lot like River Glade, and ran back there in the 90s. And I started racing there. That's the first track I raced on. Was River Glade Speedway.
I know we keep talking about the older days or some of the days that have gone by, but let's reminisce a little bit. The drivers that may have, and I don't like to use the word retired, Laurie, because you never retire as a race car driver, but is there any drivers that might have, hung up the helmet per se that you'd like to swap a little more paint with door to door?
Yeah, when you had messaged me about this conversation, I started thinking about it. Oh my goodness, I've raced for 25 years. When I first started racing, there was a lot of good drivers I got to race with, and a lot of guys I looked up to. I was just a young fella. Actually, I wasn't young. I was 28 when I started racing sportsman, jumped in sportsman. But a lot of guys I looked up to and got to watch racing for years before I got to race with. And, I got a 97 picture over here with all 30 drivers that qualified for the second annual speed weekend in Shediac. And I'm looking through that, and I'm saying, oh my God, Ken McKenzie Sr., I race with his son now. Oh my God, Dave Oblinus, I race with his daughters. Oh my goodness, Garth Kramer, I race with his son now, and they're all retired, and I'm still foolish and racing. But, growing up, I get to watch Junior Hanley, Don Peterman, all the local guys, race with my dad, Earl Ross, which is the only Canadian ever to win a NASCAR race at Norris World Pro. I think it was 1977 or 78 he won it. Got to see a lot of great drivers, and then to get go racing with these fellas and look at the poster over here. I'll just show you a quick little picture. And, there's Lonnie Somerville, Alan Snellgrove, Timmy Rogers, Mike Bryan, Terry Russell, Dave Constable, Garth Kramer, Jim Tingley, Don Biederman, Serge Burke. Serge Burke was a guy I loved racing with. We would race side by side. There was one race, 35 lap feature. We ran 30 laps side by side and didn't touch each other once. He won it. Myself, Dale Richardson, Norm Dryden, Dave Oblinus, Jim Dunham, Ian Mullins, Lonnie Somerville. Then you got Dave Mullins, Dave Milburn, Dan Burke, Jim Duke, Herman Berry, Bob Charters, Zine Dutcher, Darren Sherwood, Lloyd Garnett, Jim Duke, Mike Arsenal, Terry Charters, Lloyd Affleck. These were all guys from 1997 that I got to race with, and it was an honor to race with these guys, and a lot of good drivers. And there isn't too many of those left racing. Me and Dave.
Lonnie's still running?
Lonnie, yeah.
Darren's still running a legend car.
Yeah.
But the list is short. I mean, Dan Duke's still running around here. There's still some guys with some, and I don't want to say Dave Oblinus' gray hair, but there's some grayer hair underneath those helmets, right?
Yep. The old gray hair. My barber said, "Tell your wife stop putting bleach in your shampoo. It's turning your hair white." I said, "Yeah, she'll listen to me for sure." Yeah.
Well, it's not a secret. We're among friends, right?
Yeah. 53 years old I am. Good year though. Good year.
You mentioned those younger generations kind of moving up and racing in the sportsman division. We asked Brad Melendy this earlier. What kind of advice can you give to those drivers that are just moving up into those sportsman ranks that, you know, might be full of P&V that are getting ready to jump into a late model? You've been around the block. You were there before a few years ago. What kind of advice can you give these youngsters?
Well, the thing my dad told me when I started racing stock car, it was not only do you got to learn the car and learn what adjustments, what it does to a car. You got to learn patience, which I was never a patient kid. And he said another important thing that nobody takes time of is watch the other drivers, learn their lines, learn what they do. A lot of guys have consistent habits. So study the drivers, try to be patient, and learn everything you can about a setup on a car.
Denver, I know the wheels are still turning over there. I can see them. What do you got?
Tim, there's a lot. You know, this is Laurie Cormier. Yeah, Laurie. So I know we've kind of gotten away from 660, but that first race back, we've asked some other drivers about this. It's a 200 lap race. What are your thoughts on going 200 laps in a sportsman car?
I'm glad you asked that, not me, by the way.
I did have a cool suit 3 years ago for the first time, and I lost the bag. So I'm going to have to get another cool suit. That's going to be exhausting. These young fellas, they're not tired at the end of those races. I am. And I guess I'm giving away my secrets. I'm exhausted at the end of the race. So either stay out of my way because I'm going to be all over the track, or wait until I slip up.
So a late caution in a race like that, is that good or bad for you?
Well, it showed to be bad in the Firecracker 150 about 4 years ago. I went from the back to the front, running up front. We had 3 or 4 cautions right at the end, and my arms were tired, my legs were tired, and I couldn't hold the car down going in the corner. Anyway, I ended up finishing third, and that's when I said afterwards, I got to start playing drums or do something to get back in shape.
So, Laurie, is there any one race over your career that you maybe didn't win that you look back on and you're like, what could have been, what should have been? Is there any one particular race that you still think about to this day that you wished you had won it?
Almost everyone I run.
That's the best answer we've had yet.
Yeah. Speed weekend in Shediac, I lost it quite a few times, actually. I've only won it once, and in 08, won 4 championships there. But yeah, there was one year, Gillespie, Brian. I led a good part of it. He finally caught me, and 10 to go, he blew by me at the outside. That was in 06. Yeah, I was bitter about that one because I led most of it. 2 years later, I had given up racing, hopped in a car I borrowed, and went up past him on the outside to win the race, and he finished second.
So it kind of comes full circle. We see that all the time in racing.
Yeah.
Dylan,
No, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, Laurie.
Oh, no. We're out of things to say. Imagine that.
We're at an intersection here, I think.
Yeah.
Dylan, I know there's a couple of comments that are hyping up on social. If you're watching us on social media, obviously you're there. Drop us a comment. Drop us a question. Maybe we still got a few minutes left here on the show. Dylan, what do you got over there? They're keeping you busy?
Oh, now they are. They're pouring in here. Laurie, Brent's wondering, did you race against a guy named Bradley Logan from Harvey Station? Does that name ring a bell?
Bradley Logan. Does that ever sound familiar? Bradley Logan. That's a true question.
Would have been a red and black 37 car. His son
Yes,
is racing.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, I have. Sorry, I'm saying that name sounds weird. Yeah. Yes, I have. Yeah, Shittiak a couple times. I raced with his dad, another fella that I raced with his father for many years that come along and started racing. Probably raced against him the first time 5 years ago or so in Shittiak. Actually, before that, at 660. Started going up there in 2013 for Speed Weekend. We haven't missed one since.
Mark Gaudreau wrote on Facebook here, Laurie even raced Serge Bork's old Fraser-built car for one season as the number 3 Earnhardt car, and I believe he even won the championship with it. So would that have been a Frank Fraser or Scott Fraser car?
That was Serge Burke's car. He bought it from, I'm not sure. Serge raced that the first time in 2000. Yeah, 2000, I think. Yeah, in 2000. Wait a minute. Built 9, 97, 98. Oh, you know what? That car was a late 90s car. So it was built by Frankie and Scott, I think. And Serge ran it for 5 or 6 years. I rode off my car 2000. Serge won the championship in 01 or 02. And I rode off my car in 03 and decided to build another car. Figured I wouldn't have it ready. So my crew chief back then, Ron Martin, Serge decided to give up racing after winning the championship. That's what he wanted. So he bought that car and I drove it for him for 2 years. The first year it was 53, all blue with white fenders. The second year, he figured it was our last year in 05. And he painted it that Dale Earnhardt was his driver. And I showed up at the shop and it was all painted number 3. He says, "That's what you're driving this year." I said, "Oh, okay. It's a good number." And yeah, we did win the championship 2 years in a row driving for Ron Martin.
Right on. Denver, Speedway Miramichi Road here, but this is a question for Laurie. Would he run a modified against Zane Dutcher and Hughes McRae?
Sure would. I raced against Zane back River Glade in the 90s and used to race up Miramichi. Well, we called it Douglastown with Zane. That'd be fun.
Those modifieds are fun. That would be a storyline. We're going to have to see. I'm sure Joe Hoyt has a car, Tim. We can get.
I was going to say, he's got like 3 or 4 kicking around. Stacy Medora's had a car for Richard Atkinson. I'm sure, Laurie, we can find you a modified.
Okay, so let's get the race. We already have Eve McRae. We have Kim Hollihan. We have Zane Dutcher. So if we get Laurie in it, Richard has a car. There, look at that's a sportsman field from the 90s.
That sounds like a bunch of old guys.
Terry Russell said he was going to get one at one point. So maybe there's one more.
Yes, for sure.
That sounds like a lot of fun. We can put words in Terry Russell's mouth, right? It always works out.
What about Brad Mann? We got to get Brad Mann in a car then. If Terry's got a car.
Yes. I don't think I did ever get to run against Brad because I got to watch him run Sportsman. By the time I started racing Sportsman, he jumped the pro stock. So I don't think maybe once or twice he jumped in a Sportsman for a big race or something, but I don't think I ever did get to race against him. No, that was one of the older gens that I don't think I did race.
I think the verdict is still out between him and Terry Russell as to how many championships they've won. I think Brad's won 7, Terry's won about 8 or 9 or 10, depends on the day. Number fluctuates. So I'm sure if we got them in a race car, the guys that are in the modified division right now, yourself, that would be a race. With COVID, we were only allowed the 50%, but we would sell it out and then some. Barry would have to add grandstands, I think.
It's already the plan, Tim.
Well, there you go. Even better. What else do you got on social, Dylan? Is there anything else that's popping up?
Yeah, Laurie, you got merch. Question here at the racetrack. Do you got hats, T-shirts, or would that be something you'd possibly think about?
I've had them in the past. We've talked about it a few years, just never got around to doing it. Like to try to do it this year, considering I only got a few years left in it. And I don't know, the last 3-4 years, the money and focus goes on the car and running, and I haven't painted the car for 2 or 3 years. I've been running the same paint job, but put what I have into the car. We think we got a sponsor lined up that's going to do something for us this year. So I'll let you know if we do. That's for sure. We'll post it.
Got a hypothetical question for you, Laurie. This is from myself. You were mentioning some of the tracks from yesteryear in New Brunswick. Let's say some person hands you a bunch of money and says you can reopen one old track in New Brunswick, but only one. Which one would you pick?
Well, memories is River Glade, is where I have all my memories. When I was a kid, I got to go to a lot of tracks with Dad. I remember Hampton, they used to have cars for walls, guardrail down one side and cars all down the other side. That was pretty neat as a kid watching racing. Somebody bumped somebody into a car that was sitting parked. Pretty good wrecks. River Glade, just because there was so much history there, I got to see Junior Henley run there, Don Biederman run there, the New England Modifieds, the Hell Drivers, Jose Canat, the Human Bomb. There was always events there. And I spent my childhood there, so that'd probably be the track that I reopened or had money to build.
I got a story here about Riverglade that Mark wants to bring up. He says, ask him about the outlaw race at Riverglade. Now, that was the motor/weapon.
Yeah. My dad, it was an old NASCAR motor. It went like heck. The rules there were 630 gears back then. And now they were 550 at the end, but back then they were 630, and I was running 629.6 gears. Put a brand new transmission in it, completely rebuilt. Rear end 7.5 was what we were running then. We were running the 9-inch. Knew I had a motor that was going to make over 400 horse, and wanted to make sure it lasted. So anyway, by the end of the race, the rear end was gone on it. That motor, I sold it. And the fella took it to Sussex and dynoed it and made 449 horsepower and 451 foot-pound torque. When I went down the straightaway with that car, I had Hoosier Pro Stock slicks on it, or Goodyear, I think. Anyhow, I got videos of that, and it would look like a drag car. I was revving 6,700 RPMs at the end of the straightaway, a lot of gear. But in the videos, you look at the rear tires and they blow up like a drag car. That was wild. Yeah, that was one wild motor. We won that race because of horsepower. Bob Lane had the best handling car. It was an outlaw race, so Bob had like 57, 50%, 58% inside weight. Took all the weight out of the car except on the left side. We left our car just the way it was and changed motors. And they had American racers, and they were faster than. Yeah, that was. Cool race, a lot of motor.
We're getting near the end of the conversation here, and we could go on for hours and hours on this. But if you're on social, you got a question or a comment, drop it now. We'll do the last call right now, even though the last call never really ends. We've been to a couple of these parties before, right, Laurie?
Yeah. What time was it we left for Spreeds that morning?
I don't remember, but I think that was the night. Dylan, I think you were there. We all clambered in. I think the party could have went on a little while longer, right?
Oh yeah, that was going on. We were fueled by what? Was it apple pie moonshine and strawberry moonshine?
Yeah. Chris. It was Chris's birthday, his 40th birthday. I didn't even know that day we raced together until that night. We got there and looked around and said, they had a party. His birthday. Whose birthday? Chris's. Oh, happy birthday.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of moonshine, I saw a comment in here a little earlier. They said that PEI's got the best. Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge in New Brunswick, or is that an enticement to bring you there? I don't know.
You know what? The first time I drank moonshine was potato shine from PEI. Me and my buddy, we were only 15, 16. He drank so much, but he went blind for a day. Scared the heck out of me, so I didn't drink it until, I guess, 10 years ago. But, yeah, they get some good potato shine.
Talking about the last call, I know, Tim, you just want to hop in there. Brandon Saunier is wondering, what color will the car be if you get it repainted? Does the sponsor have a little bit of sway in that, or is it, hey, we're painting it this and we're just going to put your logo on it?
The colors I had were sponsor related, and my dad's colors were always blue with a white stripe, yellow numbers, or blue with yellow numbers. When I started racing, Mark Martin was my driver, and that's what I ran as a paint scheme on my go-kart. And I wanted dad's colors on there, but something to do with white on the front. I don't know why. So we kind of stole Rusty Wallace's paint scheme, the Miller blue and white car, and then put a second shade of blue in it. The middle shade was dad's color, and the back color was a dark color. Ian and Han either going back to that scheme for the last couple of years or go to one of dad's paint schemes, which back in the days, they didn't have any fancy paint schemes. It was just a stripe and a solid color kind of deal. He had the Firebird with the starchy and Hutch kind of paint scheme. The Corvairs were always blue. The Camaro, the MassCar the last 3 years that he run it, it was a metallic blue with the gray starchy kind of thing. So I'm going to end up with one of those 3 paint schemes. I haven't decided yet, but I'll be going back to my old colors, my dad's.
I was going to butt in there, Dylan. I said there was one pro stock banquet where I could have attested to that PEI drink that you were discussing, but I don't want to go in there, go there because I think we'll be there for another 20 minutes if we go down that road. But this has been a blast. Denver, do you have anything else before we kind of close off the show here tonight?
Well, Laura, you kind of said earlier you got a few years left, but we always say racers don't use that R word ever. So, what are your plans going forward? Like, how much longer are we going to see you? Are you going to be one of the drivers that, earlier we were talking with Brad Melendy from Newfoundland. There's a driver at Thunder Valley who's 80 years old and still turning laps. 82 years old. I'm staying corrected. So how much longer are we going to see you behind the wheel?
As long as I'm physically fit, I want to race. I'm 53, but when I'm in a car, I feel like I'm 18, 21. After the race, I feel like I'm 81. But as long as I can, and my health holds up, even if I'm not competitive, I still love the racing family and the bonfire after the race and the laughing and teasing. And that's a good part of the fun. I'm at that stage. Point racing is a lot of work and stress. The last couple of years, we've really enjoyed running big races, having a party after the race, enjoying it. Kind of going to stay at that pace, I think. We might try running for the points. If we stay running good and don't have a lot of problems, we'll continue on. If we have problems with the car or the old man, we'll just run big races, but I'm going to try to run as much as I can this year.
Is there one race that you have kind of circled on the calendar? We kind of went and we talked about 660 and we talked about the Firecracker and Speed Weekend and obviously Sydney, and then you got the Mike Stevens and the Riverview International. If you could pick one event that you have circled on your calendar this year, especially with the way COVID is and everything's changed and what have you, is there one event that it's easier to get up in the morning for than the other?
I love them all. I love racing any morning. The International is one that I've got 3, but you never have enough. Just because my dad won it too. That means a lot to me, that one. The Mikey Stevens means a lot to me. My dad thought the world, Robbie, Mikey's dad, and Mikey. And I always liked both of them. To go out there and win it and for the family, that's cool. Those mean a lot to me. To go out and get one that I haven't got, it's 660, and it really drives me to want to get a win up there. It doesn't have to be Speed Weekend. It's sure like it to be, but I really like to get a win at 660. The IWK depends on what happens this year with COVID and stuff. I'd like to go down and run it. We ran Sydney, so we changed things on the car to run Nova Scotia. So it's not a lot of work. That's another one. So pick one out of any of them, though, it'd probably be that I haven't got 660.
Well, regardless, when this COVID thing is over, the bubble opens up whenever it does. I'm sure there's going to be one heck of a party up there. It's going to be fun to get back together. Dylan, last call. What do you got on social? Anything else that's new?
We'll be here for hours talking about moonshine because Jordan Vino says Jordan Vino says we got to have a comparison with some shore shine.
Well, we got to get some potato shine. We got to get some shore shine and some Greater Mountain shine and have a great big moonshine party.
we may not make it to the actual IWK 250 if you come down here. They may have to push the race back to Monday.
That sounds like a great Victoria Day weekend deal. Denver, do you want to produce our show on the next day at Petty? Are you fine with that?
Listen, Tim, I might not be in any sort of better shape to produce.
Listen, Speed Weekend was rough on me last year. Sydney was rough on me last weekend. I got all my partying in one COVID year. So I got to, Laurie, I don't know if there's anything that's pacing myself, but we might have to figure that out.
Don't worry. After one good shot of shine, you'll be right back in the pace.
This has been a blast. Laurie, thank you for being a part of this. We could go on for hours and hours, but I'm sure we're going to have some more stories at the racetrack this year. This has been a blast. Thank you for being a part of this. And we look forward to the bubble opening up and catching back up in Moncton.
Thank you for having me. And Tim, thank you for everything you do for this sport. You do a lot for the sport. Us drivers and fans appreciate everything. And I just wanted to say thank you very much.
And we appreciate it. We're just doing what we do. I want to thank all the partners that are on here, and I'm going to change some things around. Laurie, we'll get you to stick around here for just a moment. We're going to bring Dylan Langell back on camera here. I want to thank the partners, but there's one partner that I want to thank because, boys, there's a new one on here, J. Cole Trucking Incorporated. I want to thank Justin Cole for coming on board with Tim's Corner Motorsports at the end of the season. Denver.
So where is Sean Hyslop? Let's throw that out there. Justin Cole's got something up on Sean Hyslop right now.
I'm glad you said that, not me. But I want to thank all of our partners for helping us out. Wednesday night, we're back at it again. We've got Chris Hughes and Sarah McKay, double 32s on the show coming up on Wednesday. Boys, that is going to be fun. Can't wait for it. Final thoughts, Dylan. This has been fun. We went to Newfoundland to Moncton in one fell swoop here. This was fun.
And Chris was commenting about some PEI moonshine. So we'll have to talk about moonshine again on Wednesday. But it's so fun. I mean, going from the Rock to New Brunswick. And we'll get a taste of the island, I guess, in 2 days.
I've never drank with Chris Hughes before. That's a lie. That's going to be fun on Wednesday night. Denver, what final thoughts? We get a couple of days rest, and then we're back at it. I know everybody's busy getting ready for this racing season, but I'm excited for Wednesday night too. This was fun tonight.
This was a lot of fun, Tim. Really enjoyed it with both Brad and Laurie. Some great stories, some great insight, and Wednesday night. We don't have to wait a full week this time, so that's going to be fun. Chris and Sarah should be entertaining for sure.
Show transitioning to Wednesday night, so this is our final Monday night for at least now, and I think we went out with a bang. I want to thank Brad Melendy for stepping in for Pat Squires. Wish Pat all the best. A little under the weather today. So want to wish Pat all the best, and we'll get caught up with him on a future show. Head to advancemytrack.com, vote for Eastbound Park. Let's get them a little bit of money in their back pocket that they can do some things with this season. I want to thank Laurie Cormier as well. This has been a blast. If you're looking for some racing, Vidane TV, our producer Paul Strickland Jr. has the Trans Service Cup Series coming up on their Facebook page coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're going to go pro stock racing on Wednesday night with Chris Hughes and Sarah McKay. So for Denver Matchett, Dylan Langell, Paul Strickland Jr., Laurie Cormier, and of course, Brad Melendy and everybody at Thunder Valley Speedway. My name is Tim Terry. Until next time, keep the hammer down and we'll see you at the track.